On a peaceful Sunday morning, a terrible tragedy struck South Korea. A Jeju Air Boeing 737-800 Flight 2216 crashed while trying to land at Muan International Airport. The flight, coming from Bangkok, had 175 passengers and 6 crew members on board. Sadly, what started as a normal flight turned into a horrific accident. This disaster shocked everyone in South Korea and around the world, making people question how safe airplanes are and how well we respond to emergencies. December 29, 2024, will always be a painful memory for those who lost loved ones. It reminds us that life is fragile and that unexpected tragedies can happen. While investigators are working hard to find out what caused the crash, the world grieves with the families and friends of those who were on board. The Jeju air disaster is a tragedy that demands answers. It makes us think about how we can prevent such terrible events from happening again. Flight 2216 started like any other flight from Bangkok. Passengers got comfortable in their seats, not knowing the danger that lay ahead. The flight crew, experienced and ready for the flight, prepared for landing at Muan International Airport. As the Boeing 737-800 got closer to its destination, air traffic control warned about a possible bird strike nearby. A few minutes later, a scary message came through the radio, a mayday call from the pilots of Flight 2216. The warning about the bird strike had become a terrifying reality. The pilots said they lost power in both engines. Inside the cockpit, it was chaotic as the crew struggled to control the plane, which was rapidly losing altitude. Passengers, sensing the urgency in the crew's voices, held on to hope as the plane shook violently. In just a few seconds, the situation had changed from normal to a fight for survival. People on the ground watched in horror as Flight 2216 struggled to stay in the air. The plane tried desperately to land. The landing gear didn't come down properly, causing the aircraft to skid off the runway. The sound of metal scraping filled the air as the plane slid across the ground. The aircraft, engulfed in flames, finally came to a stop far from the runway. First responders rushed to the scene, their hearts pounding as they faced the inferno. The chaotic scene showed just how destructive the crash was. But even in the wreckage, there were stories of survival. 2 flight attendants, badly hurt but alive, were rescued from the burning plane. It gave a glimmer of hope, amidst the devastation, that others might have also survived. The aftermath of the Jeju air disaster was a blur of activity. Emergency workers worked tirelessly to put out the fire and search for survivors. The South Korean government started a full investigation into the cause of the crash. Jeju Air, facing intense scrutiny, promised to fully cooperate with the authorities. Support for the families of the victims came from all over the world. Grief counselors and support groups were made available to help those dealing with the unimaginable loss. Jeju Air created a fund to provide financial help to the families. The focus shifted from understanding what happened to providing comfort and support during a time of immense grief. The Jeju air disaster is a harsh reminder of how important aviation safety is. As investigators work to determine the exact cause of the crash, attention will likely turn to what happens when both engines fail and the emergency procedures for bird strikes. The aviation industry, always looking for ways to improve, will be paying close attention to see what lessons can be learned. The road ahead will be long and difficult for the families of the victims. Healing will take time, and the scars of this tragedy will likely remain forever. As the investigation continues, the hope is that valuable lessons will be learned, lessons that will prevent such a tragedy from happening again. The Jeju air disaster is a story of loss, but it is also a story of resilience and the unbreakable spirit of those who face unimaginable tragedy with courage and grace.